Welcome to Redbeard Radio. I'm Brian Keith, and we have someone very special today. You know I like to interview people who have done things 10,000 times, and they can bring all their knowledge down from the top of the mountain and share it with those of us who maybe do the particular thing they're expert at a little less often than them. Today we have Mari Connor of Marigold Marketing. We got to work together on a mutual client for quite a while, and I got to see Mari and her team in action. And folks, I'm telling you, in terms of managing a Facebook ad agency, managing Facebook ads, doing the creative, working on the analytics, looking at return on ad spend, all of these things that you know you should be paying attention to when you're running Facebook ads. Mari is a master. Mari, welcome to Redbeard Radio.
Brian, I could not be more excited to be here with you and your audience.
I'm pretty darn excited too, because you brought a level of methodology, I would say. Yeah, you did a lot of other stuff cool too, but the methodology with which you approach problems, where you said, this is how we do it, and here's why, and then told our mutual client, you're doing it this way. And even, sometimes they disagreed and did things their own way, but just that you have this approach that it really systematizes how to run Facebook ads and how to run Facebook ads when you're running them at scale, not 10 or 20 bucks here, but like $10,000, $20,000 there. So can you give us a bit of backstory? How did you go from wherever you were before into this systematizing queen of Facebook ads?
So my story started back in Phoenix, Arizona. I'm from Phoenix, Arizona. Radio in Phoenix, radio stations are not that interesting, and they play a lot of the same stuff. And I started getting into talk radio, and then the station came on, this talk radio station that I became absolutely obsessed with. Like, it was thoughtful, and you learned a lot, and they dove deep into problems, and they described why a certain solution would work, and became a huge fan. And long story short, I eventually got to meet the general manager and left I was a manager of a restaurant at the time, just left that and went to go work at the station to go build something that I believed in. And that would probably be lesson number one, is follow your passion. In doing that, in going to do something and accept a job that was in an industry that I was passionate about, it was in sales, which I had a little bit of background in, even in restaurants, and closed my first couple of deals, ran back to the radio station super excited with these signed contracts, and handed them in to the accounting person, and then ran into the GM's office and said, I just signed 3 contracts. Like, who do I turn this over to produce their spots? And he was like, produce their spots? Like, you write the spots and you produce the spots.
Surprise.
And I was like, okay. So that was my intro into copywriting, which translates to messaging, which is the foundation for, in my opinion, almost everything in marketing. And that's translated very nicely over to Facebook advertising. So that's the background of how I dipped my toe into marketing.
Now, when did you decide to go from doing this on your own to having a team? Or did you switch straight from being an employee to starting your own business and hiring a team?
It was a slow process. So I started my business in 2012 and attempted to do everything myself. And I had a little bit of money saved, not much. I actually borrowed $5,000 from a friend, which ended up being more of a peace of mind investment. I actually left it in the bank, and it was just there for me to know that if all else were to fail in one month or another, that I had something to fall back on. So in 2012, I went back to a lot of the clients that I worked for in radio and said, hey, I've pivoted over to social media and Facebook ads. You want to take a chance on me? And because I had built up trust and a relationship, and I had provided strategy over a number of years for them, a lot of them came on board right away. The problem that I came across, though, was twofold. One was the clients started saying, hey, Mari, it's really great that you're like posting on our page and you're getting really great engagement, but like, show me the money. Like, when are we going to get leads? When are we going to get sales? And I was like, oh, yeah, give me 1 minute. And like ran off on the side and took a Facebook ads course, which at the time was taught by Nick Unsworth, who is a client to this day, but went to go take his course, learned about lead magnets, learned about funnels, started to cobble that together myself. And that investment allowed me to build a little bit of momentum, enough that I was able to bring on new clients because I was able to say, hey, I can generate leads and I can generate sales for you. But I started to get to that point where I didn't have enough time to also do the social posting. I wasn't overwhelmed, but I had always heard the saying, hire before you're ready.
Yeah.
And so I just had a sense that before this gets completely out of control, I'm going to hire before I'm ready. And at the time I went on to Odesk, which is now Upwork, and did my due diligence and, did 2 to 3 interviews per candidate that I found that would be a nice fit to do the social media management. So that could be taken off my plate so I could focus on lead and sales. And the candidate that ended up, making the biggest impression on me was a woman named Sarah Sherman, who 7 years later is a key player at Marigold Marketing Group. You know Sarah pretty well at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, you never know where these even early hires, where their journeys are going to end up. So that was the first hire that I did. And when I think back, I did also hire a coach at this hourly rate, like $150 an hour or something, just to sort of push me into that. And I worked with him for maybe 4 sessions. I needed the mental push to say, it's okay to hire someone even before you're ready. And the investment freaked me out, even though I think at the time we started out around $15 an hour, but to pay someone to do 10 to 20 hours worth of work at $15 an hour, this was an expense I had never had before.
Yeah.
But I will tell you that within a week, it literally felt like magic. I would assign tasks over to her and they would just get done. And it was literally like this magical munchkin that suddenly appeared in my business. And the time that it freed up to allow me to go back out and sell and produce better results in the areas that I specialized in, the leads and sales, was invaluable. I saw immediately why there's a saying about hire before you're ready, and that you do need a team in order to scale.
Beautiful. I would love to switch gears for just a minute here. Now, you work with a lot of 7 and 8-figure companies. And when you first walk into a company, what are the most common problems you see where you have to tell the client, your house is burning down, you need to fix this right now, whether it's you're losing money like crazy or you're not taking advantage of what you could be doing, whatever it is. What are the biggest things that the big accounts are doing wrong?
At the 7-figure plus level, there's usually 1 of 2 issues or struggles that they're having that they're looking for help from us to help solve. Number 1 is they may have had a lot of success offline. They may have had a retail store. They may have run, in the case of info products or courses, they may have been a speaker at live events who did really well, and that's how they did sales. And they're looking to move their business online in order to scale. And the number, so that's first, is moving from successful offline templates, protocols, and sales to online. And then number 2 is they've tried Facebook ads. They either had someone on their team or maybe an entry-level agency that has run ads for them. And they've either been A, terrible, they got terrible results, which happens on occasion. B is that they've seen limited success, or C is they aren't seeing consistent and predictable success. And so they come to us for A, the predictability, and B, the scaling.
How can someone who's looking to hire a Facebook ad agency because it's expanded beyond what they're comfortable managing themselves, how can they tell if they're dealing with, as you say, an entry-level firm versus one like yours that has a significantly different track record?
I would ask a lot of questions about what the ongoing communication is. The biggest complaint that we see is a lack of communication from previous agencies. So they sign on with an agency, they do the onboarding, and then the agency disappears other than sending them a report once a month.
And an invoice.
And an invoice and a report without a lot of explanation of what's working well or what's doing well. I've learned over the years, it's not only important for us to have that weekly communication with the client, it's important for them because we can both exchange information about what is working in our business.
Mm-hmm.
They can communicate to us what is working, let's say, at the live events that they hold that they may have taken note on, and we can share with them what either posts, phrasing, images, ads, creative or graphic types, and copy that's working best over on the Facebook ad side that they may want to incorporate into other marketing materials and or marketing strategy in their business. That's how a business grows exponentially, is ensuring that everything is working together, that messaging is consistency, and that as an entrepreneur that we're always taking note of what is providing us the highest level of leverage in our businesses. So if we discover that a certain tagline fundamentally was able to lower costs or increase results over on the Facebook ad side, that messaging should certainly be at minimum tested, but utilized in other areas of the business to ensure that you're getting leverage from that. You can also start with testing on one platform like Facebook ads. And if you see something that's working, you can translate that either graphic or ad copy over to other platforms where you may be advertising. Google Ads, LinkedIn, Twitter, AdRoll, etc.
That all sounds wonderful, but how does a firm know if they are ready to talk to you about doing all those things for them versus they should keep on doing it themselves or maybe hire someone off Upwork and pray for the best?
I would like to have a better answer for this, but I think sometimes it comes down to how the numbers work. So our level of care, which is translated in our fees, a higher fee agency, you've got to make sure that the income that you're bringing in your own business monthly is going to make sense with the investment that you need to make into an agency that's very high touch on strategy, on problem solving, on communication, all of which on my end as an agency costs quite a bit of money. I mean, I hire thinkers and communicators. At this point, I don't necessarily find my team 100% on Upwork at this point. I do some research. We do a ton of training. We invest a lot into our team, which then translates into higher fees than you're going to see with someone that you may hire at an hourly rate over on Upwork.
Mm-hmm.
So a business that's making, let's say, $100,000 a month, a $5,000 investment into a Facebook ad agency who knows what they're doing and can help them scale to $200,000 a month, the numbers make sense at that point because the investment into the agency is a fraction of your monthly sales.
Mm-hmm.
You want to create budgets and figure out what works best for your business to invest in Facebook ads and then attempt to via, referrals or reviews, ask a lot of questions to colleagues in the industry to find out who may be at the top of their game at sort of each price point. While there may be agencies out there that charge less than us because they don't provide that super high touch, Facebook ad coverage from A to Z on the Facebook ad side, along with strategy, problem solving, thinking through issues that may come up. You may find an agency that has a lower rate than we do, but again, they maximize what their services are at that rate. Does that help answer that question?
Yeah, so it's sounding like if you're at under $100,000 a month, then the question is how can you get there so that you can afford to work with the gold standard agency that does all of these beautiful things you're talking about?
Prospect calls that I take, new businesses that I talk to, a lot of times working with us becomes an aspiration, and we fully support that. I love when I talk to a client who says, we're just starting out, we're at the 5, 10, 20K mark in business income, but I relish the day when we can come back and hire your agency in order to help us scale from 7 figures and beyond.
What questions do people need to be able to ask to scale to the point where they can afford you? Or another way to phrase that would be, what questions do you find that people have to have answered by the time they get to that 100,000 a month mark?
So I'm going to approach this from a different perspective, and I'm going to use what I believe is timeless marketing philosophy. I believe every business should be utilizing the theory of spending 80% of your time and energy on what has proven to work. And the definition of work can be what's generating the highest level of sales, what's producing the most efficiency in your business, what is helping your business to become streamlined. You should be focusing 80% of your energy and investment into whatever is working for you in your business to scale. Then utilize 20% to do a little bit of out of the box, offbeat ideas or dream testing. A lot of entrepreneurs talk about, I had a dream last night that we did this. It's like, use that 20%, allow the 80% to sort of be your stability and your base and to keep you and the business safe, and use that 20% of energy investment or anything else that requires time, money, skills to test things that are new and off the wall. You and I think, are in an industry where the phrase shiny object comes up a lot, and that I don't want to fully take that away from clients, but if I have a client who is spending 80% of their time attempting to chase shiny objects, the proportions don't work. You're not going to be able to stay in business by just keeping 20% in place of what's working. You need to reverse that and have the 20% of what is proven and what is working, and try not to break that machine if it's working. If you've got a system that's producing results, don't touch it. But as entrepreneurs, we also need that creative freedom. And so I say 20% of your time, energy, resources, team, etc., can be spent on thinking about things that are, new and outside of the box. So in leading up to working with someone like myself, at any given period, at any given quarter, during any given year, keep doubling down on that 80% and keep placing your investments there. If you have a team member that's producing some results, a little bit of ROI in your Facebook ads, double down on that and see how you might be able to improve. Are you noticing that a certain graphic or a certain image of a person at a computer or a woman with her arms raised, are you noticing that those types of images are working really well in your business? Then go out and find more images like that. If you notice certain phrasing or a certain call to action is working better, can you create more calls to action that are similar to that? And stay kind of in that wheelhouse of doubling down on the data that you have that shows you that you're growing your business and that this is working. And then spend 20% of your time having fun, thinking outside of the box, trying something crazy. And if it succeeds, likely there's going to be a pretty huge reward for it succeeding. And if it fails, that's okay too. As business owners, we need to fail forward, but you have that 80% that keeps you and your business safe, keeps your team members employed, keeps your business going. This applies to any business, I think, in any century, in any decade. I'm a big fan of studying what has worked up until now.
Love it. Mari, for folks who are maybe or definitely in the place where they're ready to go level up and talk with your team about what that could look like, where is the best place to contact you?
marigoldmarketinggroup.com. Just as it sounds. You can also find me, Mari Connor, on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. And yeah, just reach out on any of those platforms. All of those contact forms either come to me or my team, and we'll get back to you right away.
Wonderful. Mari, thanks for being on the show.
Brian, a pleasure. Adore you. Best of luck with the podcast. Thanks so much for having me on.